Good evening, everyone, and welcome. This is another Whip and Chat, and I'm with Mackenzie tonight.
Hi.
Becky's sick, so I left her house yesterday, so we weren't able to do the three of us in a Whip and Chat tonight. So unfortunately, because we were really hoping to do that and entertain you all with our random squirrels. So instead, it's Mackenzie and I doing random squirrels tonight. But we have a couple of ideas of what we want to do, so hopefully there's not too many of them. The camera's on Mackenzie's diamond painting tonight because I am working on Becky's birthday present, and I obviously don't want her to see it. So
that would not be good.
No. Not with all the work I'm putting into it. You get to
look at the beautiful gothic spider fairy.
Yeah, you get to see the spider lady, which I think is totally creepy, but I refuse to let Mackenzie hang it in the downstairs of our house.
That's okay. It's going in my bedroom anyway.
It can go in your bedroom. I won't go in your bedroom.
I have wall space put aside for it.
There goes my phone. Apparently somebody wants me. Anyway, so that's what we're doing tonight as we sit here and talk to you. And I'm going to try and actually work on my project instead of talking with my hands. Maybe
I'm better at whipping and chatting than she is because this is something to do with my hands.
Whereas I talk with my hands. It's why I'm good at sign language.
I always have too, but if I have my hands doing something, I don't need to talk with them.
I need to think when I talk.
Gotcha.
Because
whereas words just randomly spew out of my mouth.
Yeah, I know.
They don't always make sense.
Anyway, so we just finished watching Mrs. Coffee's premiere, which was quite entertaining. And so we wanted to do our own whip since we can't do a live. I know I said I was going to do a live on Thursday night, but my computer is a Chromebook, which does not have a webcam. And Mackenzie's computer is really slow.
So we don't know what the webcam on is like.
And with Becky being sick, we're not able to use hers. So unfortunately, the live on Thursday night's not going to happen. I will let you know when I get a webcam and can do a live. So
I mean, we can test out my laptop, but there's no promises that the camera's any good whatsoever.
So we'll try, but it's not a guarantee.
More like not likely, because I think my cheap $300 computer is probably going to have a crappy camera.
Yours is painfully slow.
It is, but I didn't buy it for much of anything. I just bought it to have a computer.
You paid for your phone instead.
Mm-hmm. My phone, it cost more than double what my computer did.
Whereas I do everything on my computer and my phone's cheap.
Yeah.
But I prefer sitting down to my computer, but half the time I have to use yours because mine's too close to a tablet.
Yeah, it is.
Anyway, so tonight we thought, in case you haven't been able to tell by our previous video, Mackenzie and I are both very much readers. We love books.
I have always been a reader ever since I was teeny tiny.
It doesn't matter if it's an audiobook, a paperback, hardcover book.
I don't like audiobooks personally.
But it still works.
It would work in a pinch if I had to, but I much prefer...
I like audiobooks when I'm driving. When I'm driving and can't actually read.
Even just my Kindle I prefer over an audiobook.
Yeah, but audiobooks are nice when I'm driving.
Yeah.
Because I can't actually read a book when I'm driving.
No, that wouldn't be safe.
So, audiobooks, Kindle books, paper books. It doesn't matter to me. Obviously, Mackenzie doesn't prefer the audio, but she has thousands of books on her Kindle.
I do.
And I misplaced my Kindle for several months, but I've just found it in the glove box of my car. So now I have it back, and I plan on...
I did loan her one of my spares, though.
Yeah, with creepy books.
Yeah, but you could have logged into your Amazon account on it and read your own books.
Yeah, but then what happens when I find mine? Oh, well, I found mine. I prefer mine. It has a better screen.
See, I like my screen.
Anyways, so we thought we're not going to get into an argument on YouTube.
I have a Kindle Paperwhite. It's got the e-ink technology, so it's a little bit more like reading a regular book.
Whereas I have a Kindle Fire, so...
It's got more like a phone screen.
Yeah. Anyways, so we thought we'd talk about some of our favorite books and authors. We are not going to do a spoiler again. We are not going to tell you about a book in depth.
Right.
We might give you a brief synopsis of the book and why we like it, but that'll be it. We're not going to bore you with the details, just in case you're not interested in that genre.
Right.
Because Mackenzie's books are going to be completely different from my own.
Yeah. There's only a few series that we both enjoy.
And so we may say the same, but we're going to try and keep them different. So I will...
Well, for the sake of continuity, since I love so many different series, I will leave alone Harry Potter, Twilight.
Divergent.
Divergent's got to be on there somewhere.
The Hunger Games.
The Hunger Games. Those are our joint choices. How's that sound?
Yeah, those 4 are the ones that we both agree. We both have all the books either in Kindle or paperback, hardcover.
Yeah, we both own the full complete series of both of those. In fact, Harry Potter, I own all the books in hardcover, and I own it on Kindle.
I own all the books. Some are paperback, some are hardcover. Becky has a few of them right now because she's reading the series for the first time. But I know where to find them. It's not like she can run away from me.
I was the one going out on release day to buy the hardcover as soon as it was released.
It took me a while to get into the Harry Potter books because I grew up in a church that taught that Harry Potter was bad.
I think it was on like book number 4 when I first started reading it and got into it.
I think it was book number 5 when I finally started reading it, and that's because I was a rebellious teenager.
Right.
And it was like, I want to see what this is all about.
I think I was in my 20s when the first one was even written.
Well, yeah, you're 11 years older than me.
Yeah.
But I was a rebellious teenager. I'm like, I want to see what this is about. I'm sick of being told what to do.
And that first book is like potato chips. You can't have just one.
Nope. And then I checked out the next 4 from the library. And then I was haunting the library for books 6 and 7. Okay. And then the Hunger Games we each have on our Kindle.
Yes.
Divergent.
I have that on Kindle.
I think I have the books. I think I own
I think you do.
Yeah.
Or did at least.
I did.
Is that one where you loaned them out and never got them back? Or do you still have that?
And maybe I loaned them out and didn't get them back. Because I keep borrowing your Kindle to read them. So I may have loaned those out and didn't get them back from a former friend.
Yeah.
And then Twilight, we both have the complete series.
Yeah.
Except you have the special book and I don't.
Oh, the Bree Tanner book?
Bree Tanner.
I also own Twilight on Kindle as well.
I do not.
Because I read everything on Kindle these days because it fits in my purse and I can carry it to work easily. It carries a lot easier than even a paperback, let alone a hardback.
Okay, so those are the books we share. So I'll let Mackenzie start with one of her favorite book series, and then we'll just alternate back and forth.
Okay, one of the first ones is another dystopian series. It is by an independent author. Her name is Susan K. Quinn, and it is called the Mind Jack series. It's technically a young adult series. If you didn't know that going into it, you would forget all about it by halfway through book 1. Because even though they're in high school when it starts, so much happens, and this poor girl has to mature so quickly and make very adult decisions that by the end of the first book, you've forgotten it was written for high schoolers. She writes incredibly. I actually read a few of her series. I know you can find all her stuff on Kindle, and I do believe she might have some paperbacks out, but don't quote me on that one. But it's just really amazing. It's about a world where everybody's a mind reader. And if you're not, you're untrustworthy. Well, Kira, the main character in this book, is not a mind reader. She is something different, which I will not tell you in case you are interested in reading it. But you find out, and it's major. But the series is just awesome, and it really grabs you and pulls you in because her writing is just so amazing. It's one of those series where I left a review on the first one and said, I pray they never try to make this into a movie because there's no way they can do it justice, ever. All right, I will let Marissa take a turn now.
Okay. I can't pick just one series, so I'm going to pick the whole author because she has too many books to...
I have a feeling I know who this is.
So I'm going to pick Beverly Lewis. Mackenzie was right. She writes books about the Amish fiction, but a lot of it is based on fact because she grew up in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. And she tells stories from their perspective. She really does her research. My favorite series by her is her first. It's The Shunning, The Confession, and The Reckoning. And it's about a young girl who discovers that she was adopted and sets out to find her roots. And it's the story of what she discovers and what she decides, because she's forced to decide, does she become English or does she stay Amish? And that's all I'm going to tell you about that because it's such a good series and I don't want to ruin it. And back to Mackenzie.
Okay, next, let's see. I guess another series I would have to recommend, and this one's a little creepier. It is the Rushed series by Brian Harmon. Also an author on Kindle, but I am pretty certain some of these are out in paperback. It's a journey into the weird is all I can really say about it. Just your standard garden variety English teacher stumbles onto just all these discoveries and... Oh my gosh, I can't even describe it without spoilers because each book kind of centers around a different theme. But in the first one, he just wakes up from this dream that makes him feel like he has to go somewhere. Well, he ignores it. But then finally, just to like settle his mind and tell himself, look, it's just an urge. We're going to take a drive, get over this. And he ends up going on this like amazing adventure. And just meets all these creepy, sometimes cool people. And it's really hard to describe. But I highly, highly, highly recommend it. And that's all I can really say about it. Because like I said, every book is a different theme and just... It's hard to describe. I just can't. An ordinary English teacher turns extraordinary is the best way to describe it.
All right, my turn?
Yepper.
Okay, the next series I'm going to pick is one I'm sure you're all familiar with from reading in elementary school, but it's still such a good series. I have it on my Kindle, the entire 8-book series. I think it's 8 books. It's the Anne of Green Gables series. Now, I know they have Anne with an E on Netflix. That does not do it justice. They had to cut out so much and they had to change it so much that it loses a lot of its true meaning. For those of you who may have been living under a rock and never actually read Anne of Green Gables...
Like me?
Yeah. My roommate
I tried. I couldn't get into it.
Okay. I don't mean to imply anybody's living under a rock. It's just... I love
Even
the
as a
series.
kid, I couldn't get into it.
Okay, so you're living under a rock. Okay. Well, you are a loner, so...
It wasn't on video.
Anne of Green Gables is about a young orphan girl who is taken in by a couple. Well, they're not a couple. Let me rephrase that. They're taken in by a brother and sister, elderly brother and sister, who thought they were getting a boy orphan. And she has many, many misadventures and mishaps. And it's the story of her growing up and actually turning out to be a pretty decent person. And then further on in the series, it's about her children and her grandchildren and their adventures. So it's a lot of life lessons.
Although my middle name is Anne with an E.
It is Anne with an E.
And a lot of people think it's pronounced Annie, but it's not.
Nope. So that's another series I would recommend just because it's easy reading and it to me it's entertaining because she has so many mishaps that it's just like, what's she gonna do next? All right, anyways, that's it for that series.
Well, that takes me into kind of a singular book that was one of my favorites as a kid. And I know there are other books in it, but I mainly liked the first one, and that is A Wrinkle in Time. Don't know if you've ever read it. I don't know that they really teach it much anymore. But I just always loved the idea of having that type of science-y adventure. Because basically they travel through time and space, and it's all about, like, finding her dad, protecting her mom. And I just always kind of thought that was cool. Not that I had a very good family growing up, but... Well, we're not going to get into that because my family is rather toxic and I don't like to think about them, so...
Nope. This is Positive Channel.
Yes. But I always just... That book always just really entertained me.
My turn?
Your turn again.
Okay, another series I'm gonna pick, sorry. If you like history, this is one for you. I personally love history, and this was history I didn't know much about. It's about the history of the Church of Latter-day Saints, Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I am sorry. I misspoke there. It's called the Work and the Glory series. It's a 9-book series by Gerald Lund, and it chronicles the history of the early church from the first vision and Joseph Smith telling people about it to the establishment of the saints in Utah, or what became Utah. And it just chronicles all the persecution they faced and how they were forced to move from place to place because of the persecution and the mobs and the killing that resulted. Again, if you're not into religious history, it's probably not for you, but I would recommend it just because it is an eye-opening read that this did happen in America in the 1800s. It's not all ancient religious persecution. Religious persecution still happens today. And I'll get off that tangent now.
Meanwhile, I'm trying to think of another one because there's so many. Well, I can always get into my love of classic horror fiction. I absolutely loved Dracula by Bram Stoker. I love Jekyll and Hyde, or The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. the original Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, which, that poor monster, he was so persecuted. That could really be taken as a social study for today's society. I mean, really. He was judged and judged and judged and just pushed away. And that's what people do in this day and age. Especially like the whole keyboard warriors. Everybody's got an opinion and everybody's got to make it known.
And everybody's got to be right.
Yeah. When really it's just nobody understood him. And I always felt for him. And I was reading these as a teenager, mind you. So I read these for the first time a long time ago.
As a social misfit?
As a social misfit. Because I'm in my 40s now, so I've had a lot of time to read books. I taught myself how to read before I even hit kindergarten. This was back in a day and age where you learned your ABCs, 1, 2, 3s in kindergarten. You weren't expected to know them before you went. So, kindergarten, you learned ABCs, 1, 2, 3s, and you got your basic Dick and Jane primer books. Well, I had already read all the Dick and Jane books by the time I hit kindergarten because my mom read us bedtime stories every night, and I was too eager to wait to learn to read on my own, so
I will avoid a
I started
rant.
teaching myself.
I will avoid a rant.
Okay.
I'll save it for when we're off camera.
Okay. But yep, I've been reading since I was teeny tiny, and I just never lost a passion for it. But yes, classic horror fiction.
What are the other 2 books in that collection that you have? Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, Frankenstein.
There was only
Dracula.
one more. It was The Picture of Dorian Gray.
Okay.
Which is a good storyline, but I don't absolutely love the author's writing style. So I found it very hard to stay interested in. I'll give it another shot someday. I might like it better now. I'd have to try it again.
Okay. Another book I really enjoy is called Not Without My Daughter.
I enjoy that one too.
It's by Betty Mahmoudi. It's the story of a woman. There's also a movie based on it, and the movie actually follows the book pretty well.
It does. Sally Field plays the lead role, so.
And she's a very good actress.
Yes, she is.
It's the story of a woman who was married to an Iranian man in the 1980s, and he convinces her to travel to Iran with him. And once they're there, he refuses to let her come home except without her daughter. And
He wants to keep her there.
for any of you who know what Muslim culture is like, the men get to make the decisions. So, especially back in the 80s. So he had all rights to the child once they were in Iran.
As a woman, she was considered pretty much a possession.
Property.
So she had no rights, no voice, no nothing.
So it's her story of trying to escape with the child. I'm not going to tell you if she got away. You'll have to read the book or watch the movie to find out.
But it's definitely worth a read.
It is.
Or at least a watch, if you're not a reader.
It's going to make you cry, though. It will make you cry. Because it's very realistic.
It is.
There is violence. There is demeaning of women.
If you are sensitive to domestic abuse situations, don't watch it. Because it will set you on edge.
It will. Women are demeaned in this movie. Because that is just how the Islamic culture, I don't want to say is, because some countries in the Islamic world are changing and giving women more rights, but they used to be that way.
Yeah, you have to consider the time it was written in, which is something a lot of people don't do anymore.
So I want to be sensitive to any viewers who are Muslim. I'm not an Islamophobe. I respect you. I just ask you respect me. Anyways, off that sensitive subject.
Oh, what book next? What book next? Huh?
Stephen King.
Well, yes, of course, Stephen King, but I love so many of his books. I love, like, everything he's written. How do I pick one? I can name, like, a bunch. I love Rose Madder. That's probably the top if I had to pick one. Under the Dome, The Tommy Knockers, Insomnia. Skeleton Crew is an awesome short story collection. Night Shift. The Dark Tower series, which I did not think I was going to like because I thought it was a little too Western, but I loved it. Oh my God. I could go on about Stephen King for hours.
All right, just pick one of them and give us a brief synopsis. What the top one? Rosemary?
Rose Madder?
Rose Madder, yeah. Give us a
Okay.
brief synopsis.
Basically, a woman is in a marriage where she's being abused. It's another domestic abuse, but she ends up running away and going to a city where she doesn't know anyone and ends up buying this painting that pretty much changes her life. I am not going to tell you how or why, but it's kind of mind-blowing. I mean, if that ever happened to me with one of my diamond paintings, I'd probably want to lock myself away for life. Because
it may with your next one.
It's crazy.
It may with your next one.
Maybe. Maybe that's why I felt so drawn to Erase.
She bought Erase.
I bought Erase from Diamond Art Club. Oh my God, it's so beautiful. I can't wait to start it. It's not even my style of art, but I had to have it. I watched, I think it was Spasmodic Arts unbox it, and I just fell in love. That is the picture for anyone who doesn't know what it looks like. And now I'm just super eager to start it, but I have to finish her first.
Not my style, so I'm not as excited as she is about it, but I'm glad she found one that spoke to her.
It really did speak to me. And now I can't get it back in the crate properly.
Okay, so another book series that I really like is by Jeanette Oak. She's a Christian author. She writes a lot of, they're almost like Western type books, but they're not actually Westerns. They're just based in the West. My favorite series by her is the Love Comes Softly series. The movie series for it is on Hallmark. But again, the books are so much better because the series just takes so much out of order and so much gets omitted. It starts with Marty, who is a widow. The book series starts with her burying her husband. And Clark, who's a widower with a child. And they basically are forced to marry because Marty has nowhere to go and winter's coming. And Clark needs someone to raise his little girl. Because she's 2 and without a mother. And they strike a deal that if Marty still wants to go east in the spring, then she takes Missy, the daughter, and goes east. And it's their story about the winter and the relationship they form. And since it's the first out of 8 books, obviously you can tell that Marty decides to stay. I'm going to spoil that much because it's pretty obvious. But then the rest of the books are about their children and their stories and just how spread out they become in a country that was developing. It takes you from the East Coast of Boston to the Wild West and the ranches of what seems to be Texas or Arizona. We're not quite sure because the state lines weren't drawn yet. All you can really tell is because they're Spanish speakers. So
It must be somewhere southwest.
right. So that's one of my favorite series just because it's clean fiction, but also each book shows them facing a trial and relying on God to get them through it. But it also shows them being human, and sometimes I don't want this. I don't want to go through this. And
We all have moments like that.
we do. That's just part of being human. Some of us more so than others. Your turn.
All right. Next author I pick is Anne Rice. I don't love all her books. We're talking The Vampire Chronicles, of course. Interview was my introduction to the world. Interview with the Vampire, for those of you who didn't get that reference. Do not base these books on the movies. Don't judge them by the movies. The movies suck comparatively. Look, did you get the little vampire joke? Because Queen of the Damned actually combines 2 books into one 2-hour movie. And the original Queen of the Damned book was probably about 1,000 pages. I know a lot of people have trouble reading Anne Rice because she gets very wordy and can run off on a 60-page tangent. But if you can get through that, the storylines are actually fantastic and they make you feel sorry for vampires. More in a way that even Twilight doesn't necessarily make you feel sorry for them. Because these aren't the good animal drinking kind of vampires. These are the bad ones. They drink human blood. But it's almost like only the first 3 books have Lestat, and after that they kind of focus on a lot of other vampires, so you kind of get to know all of them. And I liked that a lot. But there's just way too much storyline to even give a synopsis, so I would recommend, if you have any interest in vampires, start with Interview with the Vampire and go from there. The second book is probably my favorite. That's The Vampire Lestat. And there could be a whole debate on who played the better Lestat in the movies. I've got my choice. I've got the unpopular opinion. That's all I'm saying. Back to Marissa.
I'm going to go to a totally different genre and go back to Christian fiction. I'm going to pick the Left Behind series.
I can argue with you there.
Okay.
Anne Rice has written religious fiction.
Okay, but it's totally different
She's
from
Catholic.
your vampire.
She is Catholic.
It's totally different from your vampires.
But there are a lot of religious references in the books.
Okay. I'm going to go to a totally different topic and go back to the Left Behind series by Tim LaHaye and Jerry Jenkins. It's been a fairly popular series several years ago. It's based on mainstream Christianity's belief on the rapture and the end days, when they believe that Christ is going to resurrect his church, and the people who don't believe in Christ as their savior are going to be left behind to deal with an antichrist and to endure tribulations and trials, and most 3/4 of the world's population are going to die in those trials and tribulations.
All I'm going to say is, what would Chuck do? Supernatural fans will get the reference, trust me.
Okay.
She's looking at me confused, like.
I have never seen an episode of Supernatural.
She's not interested.
So it's a 15-book series, or 16 books. I'm not sure how many they have now. I have the whole series. I do say that I don't completely agree with it, And I will say that if you or your children are going to read it, if your children are going to read it, or if you're going to, and either of you do or potentially have mental health problems, especially paranoia, explain that it is symbolism. At least that's what it is in my opinion. I'm not going to get into a theological debate. But...
especially not on YouTube.
No. But... growing up, I saw it for the first time when I was 12. For the next 6 years, I was paranoid every year at the end of the year about the end of the world. And...
sounds like it was written around the year 2000.
It was.
How did I know?
98, 99.
See, I remember when that paranoia was out there.
Mm-hmm.
Sierra was a year old, so I was already a mother.
My church was into the foods, not my current church, but my church was storing up food and water and telling us that we had to be prepared in case everything went berserk. And I was an impressionable 12, 13-year-old child. And I deal with paranoia as part of my mental illness. That did not help.
Yeah, we sat up to see if all the clocks and TVs would go off, but nothing happened.
So, if you're going to read it or have your children read it, explain that it's not going to happen next week. That you don't have to be afraid of it. Because otherwise, your children may be in their bedroom crying every night. I speak from experience. And I'm gonna go from there. Your turn, Mackenzie.
Okay. Meanwhile, my next series is horror as well. I'm going to go with the Skinner series by Marcus Pellegrimus. It is basically about the very beginning. It's basically a computer geek. Goes on a trip to Canada, just like for a vacation, and ends up finding out that the supernatural is real. They get chased down by a werewolf. And he just gets introduced to this world. Well, he decides to become one of the people who fight these things. In this series, vampires are not your friends. You don't want to go anywhere near them.
They will suck the life out of you.
They will suck the life out of you. They will not even try to be your friend. They don't have human friends. But it's a really good, entertaining read. It doesn't get real heavy or deep all that often. It's more of a light read with a lot of, human on monster violence. And occasional adult situations. It's not for teenagers. Or preteens, or just be aware there's adult content. And that's all I'm going to go into on that one, because this is Marissa's channel.
I think I'm done.
Okay.
I don't think I can think of any more that aren't super religious or super historical.
I could, but then we're getting really down and dirty on stuff I just don't even want to talk about on your channel. So,
okay. So on that note, she missed one.
A few. I'll wait.
On that note, now that she's yelling at her diamond painting, I just want to say that I want to thank all my subscribers who watch and give me the views and the comments. And I want your opinion. What can I do to make my channel better? Because...
what kind of subjects would you like to hear about?
I get the feeling, because some of my videos only have a couple views, some of them have multiple. So what would you like to see or hear? Because I I want to entertain you.
And she'll be unboxing some of my diamond paintings on here for people who like unboxing.
Yeah, right now, because of the tax issue, I don't have the funds to purchase any of my own diamond paintings.
So I told her we can unbox mine on her channel. So
Yeah.
you'll still get to see some unboxings if you're into them.
And as soon as I finish a couple, you'll get to see some reveals. Just not the one I'm working on until after June 8th.
Yeah. And I didn't want to make her have to put it away so you could focus on her. I'm okay with sharing my fairy.
So let me know in the comments what you think I should talk about or share or not share if you think I'm oversharing too much. I have a tendency to do that. My bipolar tends to leave me with no filter.
You've got more of a filter than I do. I'm impressed with myself tonight.
So I hope you all have a great night and a great rest of your week. It is Tuesday, so hopefully we can do the live Thursday. If we can't, then we'll do another whip and chat, and or at least I'll do a whip and chat. She has to work, and I'll just be random on there. Tonight we stayed pretty focused.
Yeah, yes.
And I will see you all in the next video. Have a great night. Bye.